From the mountains of British Columbia, with a pit stop in the cornfields of the American Midwest, to listeners around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Everett Thiemer, and while Dave is speaking at UFOCon 2020 in San Francisco, he's decided to let me sit in the captain's chair for a few days, and I am happy to do it. Frankly, because this is the real captain's chair, not that chair they give me with the broken wheel and the loose armrest. I'm also happy to welcome you, along with Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio, to tonight's broadcast. If you happen to miss any part of tonight's show, you can listen to our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including keeping up to date on the weird news of the world, as well as Florida Man's latest adventures at Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Finding a book to read on these long winter nights in the We Read the Night section, or joining the Space Travelers Club, where for $5 a month, you can join our ongoing chat, give us your thoughts on our forums, check out some exclusive content. Our own Florida man, Kelly Iyer, even does his Iyer perspective in there. Tonight, we are privileged to have Mike Ricksecker from Haunted Road Media, as I switch all the words around, join us. Mike is a researcher and author of numerous books and articles covering the paranormal. And tonight, we're going to explore the world of shadow people with his new book, A Walk in the Shadows. Besides researching and writing, Mike has been featured on several television shows, providing his input and knowledge into the unexplained. Currently, you can find him on The Alaska Triangle, airing on the Travel Channel, and hopefully before the night ends, we'll have a chance to talk about that a bit. Then, in the final half hour, Richard Black of the band Shark Island joins me to talk about the news. Dave does it alone each night, but like any good chord, I need some other notes to fuel the discussion, and Richard is kind enough to join me tonight. Mike, it is fantastic to have you here. I have been a fan of yours for a long time and followed the work that you've done for a long time, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Everett. I know we've been following each other here for a while, and I think we've had a little bit of a chance to chat. Usually it's Dave that has me on here, so it's great to finally get a chance to talk to you a little bit.
I appreciate that. I think we've had a couple of opportunities with some of Dave's shows, some of the roundtables, to kind of bounce some ideas off each other, but we've never really had the chance to just sit down and talk, and you've brought a fantastic topic to talk about tonight.
Yeah, shadow people. It's, what do you want to know?
Okay. Shadow people are one of those things that, at least for me, in the past 2-3 years, I've really kind of developed an interest in exploring them more. But before we do that, I'm going to be honest with you. You and I have followed each other and had a chance to be on Dave's show periodically together. But I kind of want to know how you got into the paranormal, because I've watched Haunted Road Media kind of grow into this entity that it has become, but I don't know much about what pulled you in to do this. Can you take a couple of minutes and just tell us a little bit about how you got into the paranormal to begin with?
Sure, I can go ahead and give you the origin story, and it does include a couple of shadow people incidents here. So my first major paranormal experience, and I say major because there may have been a couple of small ones early in my childhood that are kind of vague, and it's like, I'm not sure. But the first major one, I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and there, standing in the corner of my room, was this, what we would call a shadow person. This tall, dark, shadowy, humanoid figure, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, no face, nothing. I did not know at the time that it was a shadow person, or that's what you called it, or anything like that. I was just young at the time, so all I thought was there was an intruder in the house and it's about to kill me, because that's about what you think at that age. I figured I'd seen enough movies, I had enough time to gasp, and I was a goner. But obviously I'm still alive to tell the tale. But it did do something very unusual that was very frightening to me at that age. And what it did is it came up to my bed, leaned over, grabbed me by the wrist. And I'm trying to scream. And of course, my mouth's opening up and nothing's coming out because I'm just that frightened. But it grabbed me by the wrist, and then it crossed my arms across my body, and then ran off down the hall. By then, I found my voice, found my legs, ran off to my parents' room screaming. They tried to console me, and they told me that I just had a bad dream. But I was awake for this whole thing, so I knew that it absolutely was not a dream. Fast forward a few years, and we were moving out of that house. And I won't call that a haunted house. It was like the one incident that happened there. It was just kind of a one-off. But we were moving from that house in Massachusetts to a new house in Ohio. And, well, first off, my mother got me a book, Yankee Ghost by Hans Holzer, as an interesting way to remember the place from which I had come. And it was about a couple stories in as we're making the drive out to Ohio that I start to realize, oh, these stories are actually true. And so I was really intrigued by that. I started, scarfing up the rest of the book. It was absolutely fascinating to me. But the house that we moved into there in Ohio, as I'm unpacking boxes and putting things away, I kept seeing something in the doorway of my bedroom kind of peeking in. And I turn and look, and it would take off. I was like, okay, what was that? And I'd put things away again, and there it was again in my doorway. I'd turn, and I'd look at it, and it would take off. I was like, okay, what in the world's going on here? I was 13 years old, a little bit older. I can start to figure things out. And so I ended up telling my mother about what was going on and asked her if she had been seeing the same thing. And she said, yes, she had, which was great for me. It was that affirmation that I wasn't crazy. And I'm guessing she thought I was a little bit older and could handle some truth other than, when I was younger and scared out of my mind. So I started calling this thing Tom, as in Peeping Tom. And it would peer in my doorway and say, hey, Tom, and it would take off. So this went on for a few months, and then the activity just kind of subsided and went away. And I just chalked it up to we're moving into the house. Something was curious about the family, about who we were, deemed that we were okay, and went about its business. So it was maybe a year and a half, something like that later, I had my first little paranormal investigation. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. My friend David and I were at our friend Lori's house, and we're just there in her living room, just talking, teen drama stuff. And she suddenly mentions that she thinks her house is haunted. And this was an older historic house in downtown Worcester, Ohio, that had a family graveyard in the backyard. And so she told us about that. But the thing that was going on was that in her bedroom, she would have this wall that she would try to, tack things up on. Teenager trying to put up posters and things like that. And things would always fall down. They would stay up there for maybe a day, maybe a week, whatever, but it would always fall down. She could not keep anything permanently attached to this wall. So we go up there to check it out. We're going to investigate it. And, putting things up on the wall, taking a look, around and everything. And my friend David, I didn't realize this at the time, but he was extremely sensitive. And he decided to put his hand flat to the wall to feel the energy. And all of a sudden, his face turned a bright, bright red, and he started sweating profusely. And I'm looking at my friend, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on with David? I'd never seen anything like this before. And so he started going from wall to wall to wall in the house to see if he could find any more hot spots. And that was the moment that I realized that, I'm in. This is something I'm extremely intrigued in, interested in. I know I'm going to be involved in this some way, shape, or form for the rest of my life. That was the moment.
Wow. When you had that first encounter with this entity in that first house, you said that it physically was able to move your arm?
Yes. Yeah, it was physically able to move my arms. And that's, something that, I get a question about, are these things, do these things have any sort of mask? Because a lot of shadow people that we see, like the one that I saw when I was a little bit older, it was, translucent, it had that kind of see-through-ish quality. It didn't really have a lot of mass to it. And so I think there's differences between shadow people. Some of them do have a physical mask where they're actually, able to grab a hold of you, and you even have a chance to grab a hold of it. There are some accounts where people have been able to grab a hold of a shadow person and push them away.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here, because you do kind of explain the idea of how there could be different types where we all call maybe a bunch of different types of entities shadow people, but in reality they could be different types of entities.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you, the entity that you experienced in your first house as a child, and then the one you experienced a little bit older, did you think that they were connected in any way? Was it one entity following you, or was it just that you happened to move into or live in two houses that happened to have shadow people?
I think it was the latter, where it was two houses that at some point had shadow people. Like I said, with that first one, it was just a one-off, and never saw it again after that one time, and that was it. So I'm not really sure what happened there. I mean, we could speculate, all day as to what it was doing there, and there have been people that speculated that it was something that was, out of time, out of place. And when it saw me, it thought that I was actually dead and put me into a burial pose. And then when it realized that I was actually alive, it became frightened and ran off, which is an interesting thing to think about. As far as the other one, that house that we moved into, there was some, when we first moved into it, there was a little chatter about, it was kind of playful chatter about, there possibly being something going on at that house, because the couple of families that had lived there before we had spent very short periods of time there, like a year here and a year there, and then they were out very quickly. And my father, who really doesn't believe in the paranormal, or at least he'll say that publicly, but behind closed doors, he might be like, there might be a little something to it. But he made a joke when we first moved into there about that. And he's like, if we come home one day and all the chairs are stacked on the kitchen table like something out of Poltergeist, we're out of here. But that never happened. And that shadow person activity was really only the first 3 or 4 months that we were there. And then I lived in that house 5 years until I graduated high school and went off into the Air Force. Nothing like that ever happened again. And my parents lived there another 3 years after that. And I don't remember hearing any additional stories from them or my sister. So that was it. It was just when we first moved in.
Well, from that time until now, have you had any other experiences like that with shadow people? I understand that maybe you would see one doing an investigation or something, but have you had any kind of like personal experience or private experience like that since then?
Yeah, I mean, most of them have been on paranormal investigations. I haven't really had anything I'm trying to think, with the shadow at the house. I mean, I've had things happen at the house before, but not with a shadow. On investigations, I've seen all kinds of interesting things, from the crawler to the black mist forming into the shape of into the apparition of a little girl. I've seen dark black mists, and then the wisps, which are the ones that I call the ones that are translucent and they take off really fast. So I've seen a lot of different things, but yeah, at home, other stuff, but not that.
Okay, let's dig into the shadow people a little bit. Well, actually, for the next couple of hours, what's their kind of origin story? Where did they come from, and when do they begin to appear in, I won't say pop culture, but when do they begin to appear in stories or tales of events in the past?
Really, they go back as far as recorded history. So you'll see tales in there from the ancient Sumerians, even the ancient Egyptians, about shadows. So, like, the ancient Egyptians thought that the human soul had 7 parts, and the shadow was one part of that human soul, and it remained here on Earth. So you go back into world history, and there's a lot of different interesting theologies about exactly what the shadows are. We talk about old hag syndrome, which is a type of shadow person that basically you wake up in the middle of the night and it's taking the form of like an old hag or an incubus or something of that nature. There's a really interesting story that we have in there about it's just completely dark in form. It is in the shape of a woman, but it has. We were talking earlier about the physical mass, where he was able to actually take that entity and throw it off his bed. So these stories have been in all cultures. For all over the world for all time, which is a point that I make in my book when I get into shadow people throughout world history, which is one of the chapters in A Walk in the Shadows. And, I find it intriguing that while they each have kind of their own name for it, and, some will call it like a witch or a demon or the dark presser and all of these different terms, but they're all describing the same entity, the same type of phenomenon. It comes back down to shadow people, and you see a lot of Native American legends with these things too. So it's been all over the world for millennia.
Yeah, that's one thing that really kind of intrigues me is the Native American and indigenous peoples' legends really around the world compared to what we kind of have as a whatever you want to call our culture, because there are so many similarities, but their stories and their ideas seem to go so much deeper, and it seems as if they seem to understand them and are able to relate to them a little bit better. Maybe not have the fear that we have.
Well, I mean, they're a lot more grounded. I guess is one way to put it. And they're a lot more in tune with nature. So, like the Choctaw, they're another one that believes that the soul is in different parts, and one of those happens to be the Shambolish, which is their basic shadow entity, and there are some legends in there about the Shambolish taking on the form of basically like a shadow animal, and you'll know that it is that and not like in the depths of the night. You'll know that it's that shadow and not the actual animal. If it's like, let's say it's taken on the form of an owl, so you hear the howl, and if it's there, or you hear the owl hoot, and if there's not a response back from another owl, then you'll know it's the shadow, it's the Shambolish.
Okay. When does the Shadow Man, as we kind of know it today, really become the standard description?
That's a very good question, because you do see these shadows, the stories of these shadows throughout all of history, but it is really with our modern culture over the last, I guess maybe 60, 70 years, as we've had, television and film and even, print media, and now with the internet, as these things have ramped up and taken off and become a more deeper part of our everyday lives. These stories have become a lot more prevalent, where before they may have been stories told around the campfire, or you may catch it in literature somewhere, like in some sort of ghost story or what have you, or if you went into some like ancient mythology, or you had to study really to get some of these stories and legends, where now it's just it's all over. You can't even get away from it anymore.
Do you think that I'm not exactly sure how to put this? You mentioned the concept of TV and movies and pop culture kind of ramping these things up. Do you think that they've gotten more power, or have gotten the ability to make themselves more known through that, or is it we're just aware of them through the stories, and we're noticing them more, we're talking about them more, we're even seeing them more.
Well, I mean, there's, I think there's a little bit of a degree of both. I think anytime that, anytime you continuously recognize something, you continue to, feed it some sort of energy and some sort of power. That said, I believe there is this perception that, there's more and more of these things are coming about. The crawler stories is one that I get hit up with all the time. Do you think there's more crawlers these days? And it almost seems like people are thinking that scores of these things are coming out of the woodwork and almost like starting to invade us. And I don't think that's the case. I think what's happened here over the past several decades is that a lot of people, and well, for one, there's more people in the world, so there's going to be more stories now. But more importantly, I think people have become more comfortable with sharing their experiences. Where you go back to early 19th century, mid 19th century, around there, you start talking about seeing these sorts of things, maybe even hearing voices or what have you, you're going to find yourself locked up and put away somewhere. You didn't talk about ghosts. You didn't talk about seeing these things. It was taboo. But over the course of these decades, and as it has, you had Hans Holzer come out and talking about his research. And then you had the Warrens and so forth into today's age, where they started making it a little bit more known that, hey, these things are happening to people. And as it became more mainstream in our film and in our television, especially over the past 15, 20 years now, we've seen people on our daily TV screen sharing their experiences and sharing their stories. And so people at home seeing that are like, oh, hey, I had that experience too, and are now more comfortable in sharing their experiences. So that's one thing that I'll say I think has been good about our kind of quote unquote paranormal pop culture and the television shows, is that it has allowed people to open up and come forth and share their stories. So it seems like there's a lot more activity going on these days, where I think it's the same amount of activity, but more people are willing to share their stories now.
Okay, yeah, I could see that, and that's probably a good thing. I think the more stories that we hear, the more we can understand it. It doesn't mean that they're taking over or more prevalent. We're just hearing about them more and learning about them more.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives us more information to go off of. I mean, really, right now, the field is still, at least the modern form of the field is still pretty young. I mean, there have been movements throughout time, like the spiritualism movement during the 1800s and what have you. But in this more modern movement, we're still early in the game, and we're still doing a lot of data collection and trying to figure out what a lot of these things are. Within the introduction of A Walk in the Shadows, I put a disclaimer in there that I retain the right to change my mind, because as we continue to research and learn more, and people keep reporting their experiences, we're going to come to some different conclusions down the road than we have today.
Oh no, you're not allowed to change your mind. Mike, I'm going to get you to hold on for just 1 second, because we're going to step out for the first break already on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble, tone it down a bit with Bumblicious, and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your temporary host, Everett Thiemer. I'm sitting in for Dave while he's in San Francisco at UFOCon 2020. He's going to be speaking there, having some fun, talking to a bunch of people. Hopefully, if you're near, you're going to want to go out there and check it out. See him, meet Dave, meet the man behind the microphone. And don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the SOR Vault, where, I'm still telling you, get a Team Stump t-shirt. They're going to be the biggest hit this summer. You can join the Space Travelers Club there, where for $5 a month you get access to exclusive content. You can join our ongoing chat that never seems to end. Give us your thoughts in the forums. There's all kinds of fun things to do there. Joining us tonight from Haunted Road Media is Mike Ricksecker. And he has done so many different things. And we're going to hopefully cover at least a couple of them tonight. And right now, we're talking about his new book, A Walk in the Shadows, where he really breaks down the shadow person phenomena and kind of goes through and explains so many different aspects of it. I don't know if we're going to have enough time in the show to get through all of it because he's got so much information, but we're going to try. Mike, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking to us about shadow people. It is a fascinating subject that just seems to be growing and growing.
Yeah, thanks again, Everett. And there's a lot more coming out these days about shadow people. It's been a growing topic on a lot of people's minds, and we've had discussions in books and conversations about it before, but as more people, like we were talking about last segment, as more people start to come forward and relate their stories, we're starting to learn a little bit more about who and what these things may actually be.
Well, that's the interesting thing. We kind of lump them all, or lump a variety of possibly different things into just this one sort of umbrella group and call it shadow people or shadow figures or shadow men, depending on how you phrase it. But in reality, there are a variety of different types of entities that kind of fall under this umbrella, aren't there?
Yeah, there really are. And as humans, we like to categorize things and kind of compartmentalize, and because it helps us to try to figure out what things are and what their place is in our world. And so shadow people are no different. For a long time, everything did kind of get lumped together for a while, but over time we have started to separate these things out into different categories. And just to kind of take you through, like my book, A Walk in the Shadows, the whole first part one of the book is on types of shadow people. So I go into the humanoid figure, the hat man, the hooded figure, the mist, the wisp, the crawler. So there's a lot of different types out there. We can go into those or some of those if you'd like.
Oh yes, I definitely want to go into at least a couple of these because you and I were talking before the show, and I don't mention these things often, but I did have a somewhat ongoing experience with something that long before I really knew what shadow people were, I kind of referred to as the Hat Man. And the way I explained it to you is that at that time, the only reference that I had was he kind of looked like the preacher in the Poltergeist movies. But
right.
but there are so many other types. So since I'm kind of the most interested in the Hat Man, and it seems to be the new one on the scene, let's put that one off for last. But and let's dig into what is the crawler, because I think that's one that probably most people or the most people are unfamiliar with, yet are probably the most aware of or most in reality familiar with.
Yeah, the crawler is actually kind of one of the newer ones on the scene, really. At least as far as reported sightings, and that's the one that people keep asking me. So are these things becoming, more prevalent these days. We've seen more of these, and it's like, well, people are reporting more of them. So we're getting more reports. And again, I think it's because people are becoming more comfortable with it. But yeah, the crawler is basically kind of like what the name sounds. These things are basically down on all fours, shadowy in nature, and crawling around on like the walls, the ceilings. Some people report them. If you imagine any of your demon possession movies where they kind of get down on all fours, you hear the bones cracking. Now, you don't necessarily hear bones cracking with the crawler entity, but they're kind of on all fours like that, crawling crab-like, maybe even up and down the stairs. And I have had a crawler incident. I have experienced that one time. We were investigating an abandoned church called Blackbeard Church. It's out in Olive Township, Oklahoma, off of a couple of dirt roads way the heck out there. And the church over time had been heavily desecrated by teens going out there drinking, partying, that sort of thing. So at one point they had burned down the roof and it was graffiti all over the place, but the structure is still there. So a lot of people have reported it being haunted, and there's a cemetery across the dirt road from there that's also fairly haunted, and I've gotten some really interesting EVPs. So the crawler was kind of legend and lore for this location for a while, and this legend was that an occult group had come out there after the church had been abandoned and had conjured this thing up through some sort of ritual work. And not only did it conjure up this crawler, but it also conjured up these like minion shadow people, these shorter shadow people that I guess kind of deified this crawler and wouldn't actually come into the church, but they'd come up to the windows outside and peer in, and they might scratch at your car and that sort of thing. But the crawler we did see the one time. As far as the legend, I can't say that is true. And we have found out there on this pedestal in one of the back rooms. It's like this brick pedestal with a concrete top. We did find the charred remains of what looked like animal bones on there and some scorch marks on that slab. Now, it could be ritual work. It could also be that somebody wanted to heat up their Kentucky Fried Chicken. We don't know. Because we weren't there. But it does play into the story. So in any case, we're investigating down in the basement of the church the one night. And as we're doing EVP sessions and what have you down there, we see a shadow slip in through one of the windows. And as we're continuing on our investigation, we're seeing the movement, and it's moving around us, and it starts to increase in speed. And if you can imagine just this long, lanky shadow that has these like long, spindly arms and legs, and it starts whipping around the room, around the walls, on the ceiling. At some point, it hit the floor because a bottle got knocked across. It was like a soda bottle got knocked across the room. You heard it bang off the metal railing of the stairs that leads down into the basement, and then our electronic equipment, like our audio recorders and things like that, started generating all of this static noise. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're not picking up any there's no electrical lines or anything like that out there. So we pretty much deduced it was this entity that was creating it because we're witnessing it at the time. Our psychic medium suggested that we start saying some prayers, singing some hymns, creating a positive energy in the atmosphere to kind of drive this thing off, which is what we did, and it eventually slipped back out that same window from whence it came.
Now, these crawlers, is that what most people, if they were to see them, would that be the one that gets labeled demon the most?
Yeah, people would certainly label that one a demon. And, if this thing did really get conjured from somewhere, is it demonic? Possibly, I don't know. We'd have to do more work and investigate that one more. I mean, we only witnessed this thing the one time, but because of the very nature and the way it moves, and anytime we see it in a movie, it's always a demon or somebody that's possessed with a demon. So, of course, people jump to it's a demon.
Right. And in fact, as you're describing it, I'm not picturing it as a demon, but I'm seeing different scenes in my head of entities that are scurrying up the wall and onto the ceiling and attacking people. And one of the things you mentioned is that it had enough mass to knock a bottle down. Is that unusual with shadow people?
I mean, it happens from time to time that a shadow person has enough mass to be able to physically manipulate the world around us. Sometimes it doesn't, but I have one of my more interesting stories. And we might want to save it for when we get into interdimensional beings, though. Has to do with manipulation of the world, but you don't actually see it, and it has to do with a wisp shadow person. So,
okay. What about
you might want to save it for later.
Yeah, we'll do that one right around the time we do Hatman. We'll do those two together because those are probably at least. In my world, those are the ones that I just want to explore so much more. I think there's so much more work to be done with those. But what about the classic Shadow Man appearance or look or type, however you want to put it? Because even that one has kind of morphed a little bit with the you and I were talking about it a little before, the creepypasta kind of stuff. What is the classic, typical shadow person?
Yeah, it's just your basic humanoid figure. Yeah, your basic humanoid figure. It looks like a human. There's there's really no eyes or nose or mouth that you see. Now, some I shouldn't say no eyes. There are some that do sport different colored eyes, and the most typically seen of that are ones with red eyes. People will see yellow or blue or purple or what have you, and everybody will try to attribute, well, if it has this color eyes, it means this, and that color eyes, it means that. And it's, again, humans trying to, put meaning to something. And it's like, I mean, we as humans have different colored eyes. It doesn't necessarily define a personality trait. It just means we have blue or brown or gray eyes or what have you. I mean, it looks like a human standing in your room, and that's basically the one that scared me the first time when I was as a young child. Sometimes they're also seen with an entity like the Hat Man, almost kind of like his cohorts. That's you hear about these. Maybe entering a room or standing in the corner of a room, kind of just staring at you. And that's the basic shadow figure.
Okay. What's maybe the next most commonly seen type?
That would be the one, kind of the one that I was seeing there when I was 13 years old, where you see it out of the corner of your eye, you turn, you look, and it's gone. A lot of people report that, and people hit me up all the time. I see this thing out of the corner of my eye, I turn my head and it's gone, or I see it peering in, from my doorway and I turn and it's gone. And that's pretty much what I call the wisp. You'll see these kind of dart in and out of doorways. People will say that, I see, this shadow will dart into a door, or it seems like some places like Ohio State Reformatory, I've heard stories of, and I've been there, but I haven't seen them for myself. But there's a certain set of stairs that you can sit on, and across the room you can watch, the shadows kind of dart about, and so those would be the wisps. Those really kind of light, translucent ones that don't really have a lot of mass to them, but they're there. You can tell that they are some sort of shadow moving about. You might be able to see a little bit of a form, like, maybe you can kind of see a bit of a head, or, maybe even like the outline of some shoulders or some legs, but not a lot, and they seem to move very, very fast.
When we talk about ghosts, we talk about how they can draw energy and manifest maybe at different levels or different levels of visibility or ability to interact with people. Is a wisp something that's always going to be a wisp, or can it draw energy and maybe become what we would consider the standard shadow person, or draw energy and become something more visible than just that little wisp?
That's a very good question. And that is something that we do attribute to something like a ghost or, an apparition. And there are times in which a human spirit tries to manifest and can't fully do so, and only ends up appearing, as a shadow. And it may be different forms of shadow, like different forms of translucency. I have actually seen a shadow. It was at Mineral Springs, so you really got to come down there, Everett, to Mineral Springs. And where we actually saw the shadow morph out of, basically it was like a rolling black smoke, and it was kind of creeping up the right side of the hallway. And as it kept creeping up that right side of the hallway, it ended up manifesting into the apparition of a little girl. So that was one in which you actually got to see the whole process take place, and that's the only time I've ever seen it. And up to then, like I said earlier, I do reserve the right to change my mind. And early on, years ago, I had always believed that, all shadow people are interdimensional beings, and all human spirits are they're human spirits, they're apparitions. There's no crossover. But I had a lot of people that would talk to me about that and say, there are times in which humans trying to manifest into an apparition, they only come across as a shadow. And one of my best friends in the world, Rob Guttrow, and I have him share his story in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, where he's a psychic medium, trust him with my life. And he tells a story about his aunt, in which she had wanted to get a message to his mother, and his mother wasn't listening to her. She couldn't get through to her or whatever. And so the aunt was trying to find Rob. He traveled great distances to find Rob, and had expended so much energy in trying to find him, could not fully manifest in front of him in order to deliver the message. So she was only able to manifest as the shadow, but was still able to give him the message, and then he was able to deliver the message to his mother. And it's like, okay, well, this is Rob. I do trust Rob. So it left me, at least, for a while, with that idea. Okay, yeah, some of these very well could be, human spirits. And then once last year, I mean, they do say that seeing is believing. So once I saw that shadow morph into the little girl, I was like, okay, yeah, some of these are human spirits for sure. Okay.
That's really interesting, because we do kind of separate the two, thinking that, well, a human spirit is going to look like a human spirit, and these are something else. But it makes sense that it could be something that it just needs to draw more energy. Because I was going to ask, my next question was, when we see these things, or when we pass on, do we have a choice of coming back as a human spirit, or a human-looking apparition, or one of these shadow kind of figures? And I guess the answer is maybe both.
It's a good question, and there are a lot of theories out there about, like, when a human spirit manifests in front of somebody, that they may even have the option to manifest in a different look depending on who the person is. So if it's like if it's one of my grandparents, they're probably going to manifest in front of me as I would have seen them as, an older or elderly person, where, if one of them was still alive and wanted to appear to the other, they may choose a younger form, when they looked a little bit better and, a little bit more svelte or whatever, and, and appeared in a younger form to them. You sometimes hear stories of these apparitions of a child, and they're, basically portraying this person that had actually lived in a full life. And it's like, why are we seeing this apparition as a child? But there may be some reason behind why they want to show themselves as a child, or maybe it might be because they're at their childhood home, and when they got older they moved on and went elsewhere, but they're at their childhood home, so they want to be in their child form while they're at this particular location.
Could it be maybe they've been trying to get somebody's attention and they just haven't gotten it? This person, for whatever reason, is oblivious to the idea of this ghost or spirit trying to pop up in their life or wander around their house. So maybe they come as a shadow, thinking that's going to maybe get them to notice me, even if it does put a little bit of fear in. If the message that I have or that I want to get across is so important to me, I might be willing to scare somebody a little bit to get their attention.
Oh, I mean, that's an interesting question. I've never heard it quite put that way before, but it doesn't mean it's not impossible. Usually the idea is that they're trying to manifest as an apparition and can't quite get there, and they're only able to, show as a shadow. But purposely as a shadow, if they had the ability to go apparition or shadow and show shadow instead, it's an interesting concept. I've never heard somebody put it that way before.
Well, I would probably do that just because I'd want to scare my family a little bit. But I'm a little old and curmudgeon-y.
Right.
What about? And I don't want to. I want to save Hatman and the interdimensional ideas for after the break, and we only have a couple of minutes here. But what about the idea that these beings are trying to warn, or there's a message, or it seems like people have these experiences expecting something either bad to happen or that they're a foreteller of something that's to come. How often does that happen versus they just see them and nothing happens?
Yeah, more often than not, these things are benign. There are people out there that believe that shadow people are the darkest of the most dark entities, or the evilest of the most evil, and all of this stuff. And it's like, sure, some of them are, but I think they're like people. And this may be overly simplistic, but as with humans, that you have some good humans and you have some bad humans. And I think the same is true of shadow people. You have some good shadow people and you have some bad shadow people. We humans fear what we don't understand. So, we see this dark, shadowy entity and, we're afraid of it. When I woke up in the middle of the night as a kid and saw that thing standing in my corner, I'm thinking, intruder, I'm about to die, which is not what happened. It did invade my personal space, but again, even though it did that, it didn't actually hurt me. And with most of these reports, you get, it's standing there staring at me. It's at the end of my bed staring at me, it's striking fear into the person because they're afraid. They have no idea what this thing is. And, there are some theories behind that we'll get into with the Hat Man, but, or somebody will see it, dart into a room. There's shadows in my house. And so they get scared because they don't understand, exactly what that is. There are some that actually, do terrorize, the people within the house, or that physically harm people. It does happen. But it seems to be more of the exception rather than the norm. And even though a lot of reports that I get, are people that are afraid of what the shadow is, when you actually get to the root of what happened in the story, the shadow didn't actually do anything but just be present. It was there. It's creepy, sure, but it doesn't mean that it's evil.
Mike, I'm going to get you to hold on for 1 second. We're going to step out for a quick break. We are talking with Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media about his new book, A Walk in the Shadows, and we are digging into shadow people, and we're going to get deeper and darker, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We will be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report. Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. It's not Dave Scott. I'm Everett Thiemer, and I'm sitting in for Dave while Dave is at UFO Con 2020 in San Francisco. If you're in the area, go check it out. Hang out with our fearless leader. It's going to be a lot of fun there. But anyway, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates. KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. KDUN, AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon. KZFX, 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. WQEE, 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. And UPRN, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. For our digital listeners, we are on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can check out our archives, for free even, at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the Spaced Out Radio Vault, and reading up on the SOR Newswire, where Captain Shirk works hard to bring you some of the strange, weird, and wacky stories of the day, along with some other stuff like Dave's blog, and you never know what's going to show up there. Now, before the break, we were talking with Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media about his new book, A Walk in the Shadows. We're talking shadow people tonight because, well, it's that kind of night. And Mike, I want to say thank you for sticking around with us. This has been a lot of fun. Shadow people are one of those topics that are just really fun to dig into and really interesting to dig into. And before the break, we were kind of going through the different types of shadow people. And I think it's time. Do you want to do interdimensional beings or Hatman next?
Let's do the Hatman first, and we'll go to interdimensional, because interdimensional stuff will take us that'll really take us down the rabbit hole into a lot of other topics. So
yeah, because both of these are really fascinating. What do we call them? Versions, types. How do you label them?
Well, I mean, when it comes to the Hatman, it would be a type of shadow person. That's part one of my book. A Walk in the Shadows was type of shadows, and the Hatman is certainly one of those types of shadow entities. Is one that is reported a lot. But what's interesting is the Hatman wears a number of hats. No pun intended. But, yeah, there's the ones with the fedora, and they'll appear wearing that. Maybe a trench coat, sometimes not. There's others that have been reported to wear a top hat and sometimes a cape along with that. I've had one report of a hat man wearing an archer style type of a hat, like something out of Robin Hood, and then there's the wide brimmed hat, like almost like Zorro, like that big type of a hat. So now people will try to, of course, attribute the different hats to different meanings, kind of like I was saying before about the the different colored eyes meaning different things, and we don't know. But one of the things most commonly reported with the Hat Man, which seems a bit different from your account, is that the Hat Man will strike fear into those that actually witness him. And sometimes he's flanked with a couple of others, like maybe a couple other humanoid figures, maybe even a couple other Hat Men. So sometimes he's alone, sometimes he's with others. A lot of times he'll come into the room and stand at the edge of the bed, and he'll just like stand and stare at you. He's not necessarily one that will actually reach out and harm you, but he will stand there and strike fear into you. And so a lot of people have theorized the idea that he may be some sort of energy vampire, and that he will come into the room, strike this fear into you, and then feed off of that fear. And that's, we were talking earlier, and it sounds like your account's a little different, because it didn't sound like you were very fearful of this type of entity.
The first couple of times it happened, and I'll explain it in a little bit here. The first couple of times it happened, I was fearful.
Okay.
But Trip in the chat room actually was reading my mind and asked the question, when did the Hat Man kind of begin to appear? Because while you and I were talking about my experience, and I told you kind of how I described him, simply because back then that's all I could describe him as, it seems like in the last maybe 6 months or so, we're not hearing shadow people or shadow person, we're hearing the term Hat Man. So it seems to have kind of risen, at least in public view, in the last 6 months or so. But when did it really come into the view of paranormal investigators?
The reports of the Hat Man have been around a long time. It's almost kind of hard to kind of date when reports of the Hat Man started, but decades. It's last 6 months, and these things. I think there's kind of like an ebb and flow to the reports that go in and out. And like I even noticed last year, there was a certain time frame where all of a sudden I started seeing, being a YouTuber and, having almost 800 videos out there now, you see a lot of stuff show up in your feed, and it's like all of a sudden I'm start seeing all these videos on the Hat Man. It's like, why is this going on? I'm not really sure why. I guess there have been a couple of documentaries out there over the last couple of years, but I don't know if there was one that was released here in the last 6 months. But it's something that kind of comes and goes. And but the Hat Man itself is like, as far as reports, it's been around for several decades. I know people would probably want to try to attribute that they started coming about during the 40s or 50s because of, the fedora style hat, or with the top hat, maybe they were coming around the 1800s. And it's really hard to know that for sure, because again, back then you didn't get so many of these types of reports because, people were very cautious with what they actually told. I mean, you may get some sort of, like in the 1800s, it was kind of big for this, where you would get a ghost story, a reporting of a ghost in the newspaper as an actual news report, but it wouldn't be something necessarily like the Hat Man or whatever. It would be a ghost or an apparition, or I love the terminology, like his ghost ship. It's like, okay, that's cute, but then that kind of started to wane in the early 20th century, and it became more taboo again to do that. And now the only time you ever see it in the news is like there's a paranormal team that's going to investigate, someplace. But the Hat Man's actually been around for a long time. Now, there is one thing that I would like to throw out there, because this has just come out here in the last couple days. And, I have to thank Ancient Aliens for this one, because we ended up on our live stream show last night, we ended up talking about this on Beyond the Shadows, was there was Albert Binder, one of the guys who really started one of the first UFO groups in 1952. And this was like during the big UFO flap of 52, where, he created this organization, started writing his own journal, to talk about these different sightings and everything. And then, like, within a year, all of a sudden he was visited by the Men in Black. And the Men in Black, they're dressed in these dark suits. They have the hats, but they're human, or at least they appear to be human. Some people will try to say that they may be extraterrestrial or something else, but they do have all the characteristics of a human being. So he stopped doing that. But then several years later, he ended up writing a book about his experiences and all of that. Well, shortly after that, he was at his typewriter writing. He started getting tired, went to go lay down, and he witnessed 3 shadow people, hat men, materialize through his wall. And they're wearing the fedoras, and they got the basically like the dark suits and all that. He talked about having glowing eyes. And so now a lot of people started contacting me over the past, few days, like, hat men are actually Men in Black, or Men in Black are actually hat men, and all. It's like, okay, thank you, ancient aliens. But I think what happened is he had 2 different experiences. Yeah, I think early on in 1952, or I guess it would have been 53, a year after he started his stuff, I think he was visited by Men in Black. But then years later, when he had this other experience with the hat men materializing through the wall, I think that was a shadow person, hat man experience that he related to the Men in Black, because he had already had a Men in Black experience. And so that's where his mind went, was, oh, these are Men in Black, because that's what he had already been exposed to. But I think that was actually a shadow person experience, and these were 2 different things.
Okay, I can see that. But it is interesting how within the UFO community, it seems like maybe the last couple of years, the idea of interdimensional beings and all things kind of being connected has begun to become a topic of serious discussion, where the idea of this could be some sort of entity like that. I've talked to a couple of people who have gotten reports or have found reports of Men in Black showing up shortly after somebody reports a ghost sighting or experiences a ghost kind of sighting. And that would be really strange, I would think.
Well, yeah, because Men in Black, when they're seen, it's usually after an extraterrestrial sighting. And it could be that the person who believes that they saw a ghost misinterpreted what they saw, and it was actually an extraterrestrial. I do believe in the connected universe and that everything is connected. As far as interdimensional beings, I believe a kind of quote unquote true shadow person is an interdimensional being. There are those shadow people that they're not really shadow people; they're actually human spirits, and because we talked about that a little bit earlier, and they're just not quite manifesting. But the ones that are actually real shadow people, I believe these are really interdimensional beings, and I have a really good example of why I believe this. This is actually a shadow wisp story. But we were doing a paranormal investigation at a restaurant called Johnny V that had been in Muskogee, Oklahoma. It's closed down. I imagine it's something else by now. This was several years ago. And we were just finishing up the investigation. A couple guys were up in the bar area. A couple of others were out in the dining room area. And I decided I was going to do a last photo sweep of the restaurant, get some more pictures and photos of the interior. So I'm just walking through the main doors of the kitchen. And as I walk in, I see this just really quick wisp, just dark, shadow wisp, just dart right across the room. It was so fast, but it had a little bit of form. It was definitely translucent. It was tall, kind of narrow, and it just took off across that room. And you heard the bang of the door. And I was only running audio. I didn't have video. I was just taking snapshots. But I do have the audio of this bang on the door. And what's interesting is that door didn't move. So I called out to the others, and the door that it went through, just kind of clarify here, it was just one of those flimsy metal doors that waiters and waitresses carrying large trays of food walk through, so that they have, basically no pushback on the door. They can just easily walk through. I mean, you could just like tap it with your finger and that door moves. You heard this thing slam through there, doesn't move. I call out to the others, hey, did you guys hear that? Yeah. You heard that? I described, what I had seen, and then I started thinking, well, maybe they're messing with me. So, did you guys throw something at the door? No. And even if they did throw something at the door, I would have seen that door move. But still, I went out and checked. I opened up that flimsy metal door, and I'm looking down around the ground. No, they didn't throw anything over here. So I got to thinking about what in the world I actually witnessed. And here's what I think happened. And I have a great illustration in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, as to what I'm about to describe. I think what happened is myself and the shadow, we were on two different planes of existence at the same time. For whatever reason, our dimensions were crossing at that particular moment. And when I walked in, it saw me. I don't know in what form it saw me or what have you, but I scared it. I walked in, it saw me, it got scared. It took off and bolted through that door. And on its plane of existence, perhaps, it blew right through that door, and that door actually opened. But because I'm in a different dimension, I didn't see that happen. However, sound is on a different wavelength. And I think what happened is that sound resonated from one dimension to another. So I was able to hear it, but not see it. And we actually get into this. I know you mentioned we might talk about it a little bit later. We talk about this in the show, The Alaska Triangle, in the missing Douglas airplane that may have gotten lost into a portal or a vortex into another dimension. And there's like a little bit of radio chatter that they were able to pick up. Never found the plane. 7,000 people out there looking for the thing. Never found it. But there was a little bit of radio chatter picked up at one point during the search. And some people speculate that we were able to hear that coming from another dimension. And so,
go ahead.
So this is why I think shadow people are interdimensional beings. That incident right there to me says this is happening from another dimension.
Well, with teasing the Alaskan Triangle like that, we're definitely going to have to get into it a little bit now, because that is a fascinating and fantastic story. But how do you think, or do you think, then, that Men in Black and Black-Eyed Kids even are they related to shadow people at all? Are they different entities entirely? Because it does seem like sometimes there is a little bit of crossover.
Yeah, and I'll get that question. Are Black-Eyed Kids, are they shadow people? And I do have a section in the book on some of these different entities that people will ask me, are these shadow people? Are those shadow people? And I mean, Black-Eyed Children, no, they're not shadow people. I believe they're interdimensional beings, but given, if we're going to, break things out into categories, well, with a black-eyed kid, I mean, you see facial features. They have the black eyes, but you see nose, you see mouth, you see all the details in the clothing. It may be shabby clothing, but you can see all the details in the clothing. It's not just a shadow. And they look like a kid. They're a creepy kid, but they look like a kid. But then they suddenly disappear when you don't let them in the house. And it's like, okay, where'd the kid go? And I think the same true possibly with Men in Black. There are varying theories that they may be some shadowy government entity, or they may be an extraterrestrial themselves, or they may even be some interdimensional being. But they have the features. You can see the face. They look like Caucasian men. Most of them appear to be bald men. Sometimes they don't have the hats, actually, but usually they do. But they have all the features, so they're not a shadow. But this is kind of a term that I've thrown out there. They may be all interdimensional cousins, so they may all be related somehow. But they're not exactly the same type of people, just like we have, different types of, people of all varying sizes and races and what have you, across the world. Doesn't mean we're all exactly the same.
Right. But do you think there's any connection between sort of the decline in reports of black-eyed kids or black-eyed children and sort of the rise over the past 6 months to a year or so of reports of the Hat Man? Or is it just coincidental?
It's probably more coincidental. I mean, I think it kind of goes in an ebb and a flow. I think somebody will, mention, I saw, a Hat Man, or I saw a black-eyed kid. Oh, yeah, I saw one too. Oh, did you hear about this story? And it just starts to kind of snowball. Like right now, we're going to get a bunch of Men in Black stuff. And you can thank History Channel for that, because Ancient Aliens did a thing on Men in Black on Saturday. And then last night on Tuesday, Project Blue Book, which is on the same channel, History Channel, did a Men in Black episode. So you're going to have anybody watching either one of those shows, and a lot of people watch both, are going to be talking about Men in Black. So, yeah, you expect more Men in Black stuff coming out here soon.
Yeah, I can already see that coming now that you've told me this.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing it myself. I mean, I ended up, because of the people contacting me about the Ancient Alien episode on my Beyond the Shadows broadcast last night, I was talking about Men in Black versus Hat Man. And come to find out, today when I was going into, because I've purchased Project Blue Book on Vudu, because I don't get cable, I stream everything. So I, looking down to the new episode, Men in Black. So now for my Friday night Ghost Rights episode, I'm going to have to, put together, I'm in the process of writing it up, a specific short form, because the Beyond the Shadows thing is long form, another short form video on Men in Black. So I'm doing it myself. So other people are going to be doing the same.
Oh, of course. How do you explain to people, or what are your thoughts on, as people talk about this idea of everything being connected and related, the idea of ghosts being connected to aliens, being connected to other consciousness kind of things. There are some people out there that don't want to talk about it, or don't want to accept it, or even recognize the idea that something could be on a different plane or in a different dimension. But yet they'll freely talk about ghosts, which, in my thinking, if my uncle is living or wandering my house looking for me as a ghost, he's already on a different dimension and existing in a different plane or dimension. So why is it so hard for some of these people to kind of look at it and accept the idea that maybe a multi or interdimensional kind of thing could be going on?
I think with some people, they think another dimension and they automatically think like parallel universe type stuff. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could just be another form that the energy takes, and you're basically rising above your current reality. So like the first dimension is a line, the second dimension is a plane, like basically like a piece of paper. Third dimension is an object. And right now, our dimension that our reality is in, for lack of a better term, is time. And so you're able to freely interact with all those things that are below you. So we're able to interact with three-dimensional objects, but we can't seem to get out of this concept that we're calling time. The fifth dimension, Interstellar does a great job. The movie Interstellar does a pretty good job of depicting a fifth dimension and how you would be able to, if you had access to all time of a single location, which is the little girl's room, how something like that would look. And they call it a tesseract. And I don't know if that's really what it would look like, but basically from that dimension, that fifth dimension, you're able to interact with different segments of time like that, because you're above time. You're no longer trapped in that river. And so I think it's probably a little bit more like that rather than the whole idea of parallel universe sort of thing. But I think that's where people get stuck, is they think dimension, they start thinking parallel universe, and they're like, I don't think there's 5 million different versions of myself out there. And I don't think that's really what it is.
Oh, when you start talking and bringing time and parallel dimensions into it, I'm not smart enough to be able to deal with all of that, and my head just begins to quickly
explode.
Spin.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to step out for a quick break here, Mike. And when we come back, can we dig into the idea of sleep paralysis a little bit?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that is one of those things that's just something that I think it's both terrifying, but yet also fascinating to a lot of people. So we're going to step out, and we'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother Is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and strange humanoids. Truth seekers Stephen Bassett, Jeff Meldrum, Jack Kasher, and Stanton Friedman, among others, all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. My name's Everett Thiemer, and I'm sitting in the captain's chair while Dave is off in San Francisco at UFOCon 2020. He's going to be speaking there. He's going to be having some fun. He's going to be meeting some of the listeners. If you're in the area, I'd suggest you go check it out and give Dave a little bit of a hard time. Don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, picking up a Team Stump t-shirt or hoodie in the SOR Vault, joining the Space Travelers Club, where you can give us your thoughts on the never-ending forums that we have going. You can check out some exclusive content from our own Florida man, Kelly Iyer. You can join our live, ongoing, never-ending chat that's always hopping. There's a lot you can do in there for $5 a month. Now, tonight, we are talking to Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media, and we're talking about his new book, A Walk in the Shadows. And I promise, we're going to get into the Alaskan Triangle here in a little bit. But we have some more things we want to cover with the idea of shadow people and his book. So, Mike, before the break, we kind of teased a little bit at the idea of some things, and I want to go down a road here and talk a little bit about sleep paralysis.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people will, when they contact me, and they've been reporting it, for thousands of years, really. When they wake up in the middle of the night and see this shadow person, they're experiencing sleep paralysis. Now, this doesn't always happen, and I think that's one of the issues that people don't really realize or understand. The medical community, when they're approached about shadow people, and I actually do reference some medical abstracts within A Walk in the Shadows, and it's the whole part 2 of the book is specifically on sleep paralysis, because this is a large misconception as to what really happens. The medical community will state that, well, what shadow people are is a hallucination when you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're experiencing sleep paralysis and you're still in a partial dream state, and so you're hallucinating this thing in your room. Now, sleep paralysis is a real phenomenon. I've experienced real sleep paralysis, and it is scary. It is terrifying, because there is part of you that is awake, but yet your body can't move. And sleep paralysis is a natural biological function of your sleep state. So in order for your body to not act out your dreams, your body goes into this paralysis mode. And there are times in which, not everything always perfectly works with your body, and you end up in this state of paralysis while you're actually awake, but your body's still paralyzed. A lot of times this happens for people when they're waking up. For me, it's happened where my body just basically shut down, and my mind was still awake, but my body was just so exhausted that I'm sitting there and boom, it just turned off. The first time that happened to me, it was extremely disconcerting. I was scared. I was terrified because I had no idea what was about to happen to me. How I was about to get out of the situation. I was in a work situation. I didn't want to be found there. Just basically body asleep, paralyzed, whatever. It was. I could hear voices and everything around me. It was. So it was terrifying. How in the world am I about to get out of this situation? It took me a few minutes to kind of get my wits together, and I was only like 20 years old at the time. And so I just figured, okay, can I wiggle a toe? And finally I was able to wiggle a toe, and I was like, okay, can I wiggle a second? And then, I was able to wiggle a second, kind of like slowly worked up my foot, my legs, my body, my torso, and then, finally up to my head, and boom, I was awake. Whew, okay. It was another 17 years before that happened again, and it was kind of the same thing, same type of environment, and then my body was just so exhausted. Boom, it crashed out. I wasn't nearly as terrified because it happened to me before. It'd been a long time, but I kind of basically did the same thing. But in none of those situations did I ever experience shadow people. Saw no shadows whatsoever. And in all the shadow stories that I've told, that I've experienced, I was never asleep for. The only one in which I was actually in bed was the very first one, but I was awake for that, and I wasn't paralyzed. The first thing that I tried to do in that situation was scream, so my mouth opened. The shadow entity, took my arms and crossed them across my body. Okay, my arms are moving, and then when it ran off down the hall, I turned my head and watched it go. So I'm not paralyzed. And at no time with any of those shadow experiences had I ever been paralyzed. And most of them, we're investigating. We're a paranormal investigation. We're walking around. We're observing. No sleep paralysis going on here. But when the medical community makes this assertion that, well, you're just hallucinating, your body's, still in a state of sleep, and you're just hallucinating this in your room. Well, we dream about a lot of different things other than just people. We're seeing a shadow figure in our room, maybe somebody wearing a hat or whatever. That's a person. But we dream about, cars, motorcycles. We might have trees and birds and, all kinds of stuff in our dreams going on. I've had dreams of being on stage with Motley Crue, but at no time, but at no time did I ever, suddenly wake up and there was 10,000 people in my room and pyrotechnics going off, and no, that's never happened. What people experience is a shadow person, or maybe a couple shadow people in their room, not all this other stuff. So I don't think it's a dream. I don't think it's a hallucination. So, and a lot of the stories and reports that I've gotten over the years, that, well, yeah, some of them are experiencing sleep paralysis, but most of them not. So what I believe is going on here is there's two different phenomena. So there's sleep paralysis, which is a sleeping type of phenomenon that occurs. It's natural and biological.
And frankly, it's actually somewhat important that it happens, because if you're dreaming that you're on stage with Motley Crue, you could be a danger to yourself or others if all of a sudden you jump out of the bed or jump on the bed and start playing air guitar and go to leap into the stage and land on your dresser.
Yeah, stage dive onto the dresser. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. Yeah, and people do talk about it. Every once in a while they have that. Sometimes sleep paralysis doesn't work 100% of the time while you're dreaming, and every once in a while, you're dreaming you're riding a bike and your leg kicks and you kick your partner or something. It happens. So it's not 100%, but but for the most part, it does work, and that's its function. So so that's a phenomenon. And then the shadow people are their own phenomenon that we experience, and sometimes they do happen together. And I think what happens when people are experiencing a shadow person in their room and they are undergoing sleep paralysis. Anybody with a parent can relate to this, that you're lying in bed, you're asleep, it's the middle of the night, and all of a sudden you sense a presence. And a parent will suddenly wake up and there's their child standing there next to the bed. My kids were notorious for this. A lot of times they wouldn't tap you and say, Dad or Mom. No, they just stand there at the bed waiting for you to wake up. And you sense that presence. You feel that energy next to you, and your body wakes up. And so I think what happens is, while you're asleep there in bed, and the shadow person comes into the room, you feel that presence of that entity's energy. And so you end up waking up in your bed, and you might still be going through this sleep paralysis thing, and there's this thing that is actually the thing that woke you standing there in your bedroom. So there's a lot of these different situations that I believe happen that is just completely different than the medical community would like you to believe.
Well, many of the stories that I've heard involving waking up to some form of shadow person, they seem to include the sleep paralysis aspect. And yet, as you and I were talking off the air, and I described something to you, I didn't experience any sleep paralysis. I was able to move. Do you think if the shadow people are there, do you think they maybe control how you wake up a little bit, or do they have the power to allow you to either wake up being paralyzed or not paralyzed, or is that just kind of left up to chance?
I think it's left up to chance. I don't think they're controlling your paralysis or anything like that. I think it's totally that your body senses something there, and it maybe it's your mind first that wakes up before your body, and you're alerted like something's here, and oh crap, the body hasn't caught up to the mind yet, and you're still paralyzed and you're seeing this thing. I don't think they're actually controlling any bit of that. It's just it's chance. And you're right. There are a lot of reports of the sleep paralysis and the shadow people, but there are a lot of ones in which they're not. I mean, you're telling me about one here, but I have a number of stories within the book about sleep paralysis without. Or the shadow people without the sleep paralysis. And what's interesting to me are the couple of reports that have come in from people who have, because a lot of times with these reports, it's kind of a solitary thing that happens. Like, you might be in bed alone, or your partner's asleep and you're seeing this thing and you have this experience, and all you can do is tell the story. But I do share some stories in there where one that's really interesting from this girl named Megan, and she didn't actually see the shadow. She felt the presence there, and she was undergoing the paralysis, but it was her boyfriend at the time that actually he was alerted to her, because she was, I guess, she was paralyzed, but she was kind of shaking or something, or murmuring or whatever. She was making some sort of noise that woke him, and he saw the shadow and told it to get out. So she didn't actually see it; she just felt the presence, and he saw the shadow. So there's some interesting stories like that. So here's a corroboration of what's actually going on.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's a little weird. But, I think the idea of involving the sleep paralysis, maybe those stories get to the forefront or are told more simply because with the sleep paralysis, the story's a little bit more creepy and fun to tell.
Well, it is, and it's a lot more frightening. And I would say that if the one that would be creating the paralysis, or type of paralysis perhaps, would be the old hag syndrome, where you wake up and you got the old hag or the imp or the ghoul or the incubus or whatever you want to call it sitting on your chest. Again, it's not 100% because there are stories of people, pushing the thing off of them and things like that. But that's the one where they'll call it like the dark presser or the witches riding you and things like that. And that's one where they're getting pressed down into the bed. And so is it paralysis or is there a physical struggle going on there where the person can't move because they're getting pressed down into the bed? And, fascinating story that I was told this past summer was the woman woke up in bed and there was it was a type of the old hag syndrome where it was a dire wolf that was on her chest and pressing her down into the bed. And, she's screaming, she's thrashing around and all this stuff. Her husband wakes up, tosses on the light. He didn't see the dire wolf. She only saw the dire wolf. But what he saw was his wife getting pressed into the bed and then the impressions of the paws on her shoulders. So another corroborative moment. But yeah, it's, but you wonder, okay, was it the power of the dire wolf that was pushing her down so she couldn't move, or was it a sleep paralysis thing? I don't know, but he saw what was going on, even though he didn't see the wolf. He saw what was happening, the result of it.
That's one that we didn't really talk about. We kind of skipped over the shadow person type, the presser, right?
The old hag syndrome, right?
Can you describe that just a little bit? Because we did kind of skip over that one a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but it kind of all plays into it because we did talk about the shadow people throughout world history, and that's one of those that have been reported in all cultures throughout millennia. They all have their story of this type of phenomenon, and that's where you wake up in the middle of the night and you have this. It's like an old hag or a witch or a ghoul, or some people say the famous painting by Henry Fuseli has an incubus. It's called The Nightmare. And so that's kind of the depiction of what it is. And it's pressing you down into the bed. And there's a lot of different legends, depending on which culture it is, as to why this is doing that. Sometimes it's like a curse, or they're feeding off of your energy, or they're trying to do something nefarious. I mean, this is one that is very scary because you're waking up to this type of phenomenon. It's like I said, I've had reports of people throwing them off of them. A lot of times they just end up disappearing. People will just kind of shut their eyes and pray, and it goes away. So there's a lot of different ways that cultures over the millennia have tried to deal with this. They'll call them demons and things like that, but we're not really sure.
Oh, demons. Have we talked about demons? Because
not really so much. a little. But
maybe it's good that we haven't, because I think sometimes they maybe get too much attention or more attention than they deserve. But how often are these shadow people labeled demons, and how often or how many cases have you seen where, maybe it actually was a demon?
Yeah, I think what the deal was is you and I talked about it between one of the breaks or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. So a lot of people will immediately go to the shadow person's a demon. And I think that has a lot to do with our current pop culture where, everything on TV now has to be a demon, or everything in the movies now has to be a demon. Because demons sell, before, early on in television when it was, we're just debunking what's going on in the house. Well, then it was like, no, we have to have a ghost there. And after we did a number of years of that, we got to amp it up. We need demons. So now it's all demons. I don't know where we're going to go after this.
It's a little scary where we could go.
I had no idea. No, there's going to be like extraterrestrial demons or something next. I don't know. But, demons are few and far between. They are not as common as everybody likes to make out. And of course, there are religious fanatics out there that will say every single little thing's a demon. But because of this proliferation within our pop culture right now, I will literally have people contact me and say, I have a demon in my house. Okay, why do you think you have a demon in your house? Well, the a candle went flying off the mantle. Okay. I mean, that's not demonic. I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe down the road as we investigate a little bit, maybe we discover that is, the beginning of a demonic infestation or something.
Maybe it's a poltergeist.
Maybe it's a poltergeist. Maybe it's just maybe it's, Aunt Jane who died 30 years ago that doesn't like that candle on the mantle. We don't know. And until we do some investigating and find out. Of all the years that I've been doing this, and I've been involved in some way, shape, or form with the paranormal for 30 years now. That very first little paranormal investigation I had, I think the year was 1990. And so it's 30 years now. There's been one demonic case that I've been on. There have been other cases where, yes, there have been nasty, mean, nefarious spirits. But human spirits can be nasty too. Usually you retain your personality traits when you lose your body. So if you are a jerk in life, you're usually a jerk in death too. And those jerks like to act out in your home. So even though stuff might be getting tossed around in your home or nasty things are happening, it might just be, a nasty human spirit. So it takes a lot of investigating and research to determine whether or not something is actually a demon. And in all those years, I've had one case that was actually demonic. That's the one that was featured on The Haunted, which aired. We filmed it in 2010. It aired in 2011. And we had the show, again, television. The show depicts us going into that house, doing an investigation, getting a nasty EVP, and then we call in demonologist Carl Johnson to cleanse the house. And that's not what happened. We did at least a half dozen investigations of that house, a number of different follow-ups. We were in constant contact with the family for several months. And then when everything started, amping up with this is going to become a television show, we had Carl come out to, he interacted with the family a little bit, and then we filmed the cleansing of the house. So there are a lot of things that went into this. And we were researching up until, right about just before Carl got there to, really verify that, yeah, this is something that is not demonic, or that is demonic. That's not actually a human spirit from the home, because there were some questions about that. There were a number of nasty things that happened in that house. There was, there were a couple of suicides that happened there, another attempted suicide. There's some nasty things that went down. So we needed to determine if this thing was like the original homeowner's father who took his life in that same bedroom where she was having most of the problems. Was it this guy? And, was he acting up within the house? Or was there something else there within the house? Maybe it was attached to the land that had provoked him and influenced him to take his own life and influenced the others within the home, that all these bad things ended up happening before this other family moved in. And so between that and the things that were going on with the girl, and again, we ended up with Carl, and there are demonologists who's been doing this for, 45 years. Some of the things that he discovered along the way, he decided, this one is actually, demonic. And it was a red-eyed shadow entity that she was primarily seeing, that was terrorizing her, the cat. The father had seen it. The older brother had seen it before he moved out. He described like the one time waking up to like a wrestling match going on in his room where things were getting tossed, and he couldn't see the entities that were wrestling, but it was making a mess of his room and, creating quite a bit of a ruckus. So there are a lot of things that went on over the years there. But, and that's just one over all the years. And it took all of that investigating, research, somebody who's been doing this for 45 years to come in and, make these other, and do his work to make this determination. It's not just a couple of things flew around the room, it's a demon. There's a lot that goes into making that kind of determination.
when you were on this case, and I ask this because it seems to be the only case where you truly think a demon was involved, as you guys progressed and this case went from being investigated to being made into a TV show, did the activity increase at all or get more violent as if the demon was reacting to the situation? Or did it just kind of stay at the same level that it had always been at?
That's a good question. So for the most part, what was going on was in oppression. So basically, the entity was creating a situation that was very depressing for especially the girl. I mean, the house, you walk into the house, there was like a heavy, palpable energy to the place. But with the girl Taliesin, she started suffering major depression, was going through a lot of suicidal thoughts, which she had never had before. And so she was becoming very oppressed. Where it started getting amped up was as we continued to investigate and the talk started coming in about bringing on Carl. And Carl started, getting on the phone, talking with the family, because he's from Rhode Island, and this was out in Oklahoma, so he wasn't just jumping in his car and driving out there immediately. So as he's starting to interact with the family a bit, that's where it really started to ramp up a little bit, and Taliesin started showing the beginning signs of possession. She wasn't outright possessed or anything like that, and she wasn't like turning into the crab and crawling on all fours and have the bones cracking and all that garbage that they show in the movies. But she was starting to show those signs, and there was like the moment everybody kind of really talks about is when her mother had Carl on the phone the one time. Taliesin suddenly she just storms into the room and starts going on and on about the chastiser, and you're talking to the chastiser, and you can't bring him here. And it was just, from the way her mother Susan described it, it didn't even look like her daughter that had walked into the room. So that was pretty much the night that it was decided, yep, Carl's coming out here and we're going to get this thing out of there.
I think that makes complete sense. Mike, I'm going to get you to hold on for a second. We're going to step out for another break on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I'm not Dave Scott. Dave is off in San Francisco at UFOCon 2020, giving a couple of great presentations, hanging out with a bunch of really nice people. If you're in the area, check out San Francisco's UFOCon 2020. It's time well spent. But anyway, welcome back. I'm your host tonight, Everett Thiemer, and thank you for sticking around with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates. KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. KDUN, AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon. KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. For our digital listeners, we are on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can check out our archives for free. And we want to keep them free. We want them to be free forever. But you can check them out at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. That's part of what helps keep them free. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the Spaced Out Radio Vault, reading up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more. Now, we have Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media for one more half hour. And we've talked a lot about shadow people and his new book, A Walk in the Shadows. But, Mike, I want to shift gears a little bit because you've got another little project going on, and it is fascinating. It's a really cool topic. For those of you that don't know, it's the Alaskan Triangle. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about the history of that and your involvement in this TV show?
Yeah, the Alaska Triangle, it's airing now on Travel Channel, so Sunday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. And basically it explores the supernatural phenomenon that happens in Alaska, much like the Bermuda Triangle. So a lot of those like strange disappearances, electrical anomalies, and vortices and portals and all that stuff that happens in the Bermuda Triangle, there are several areas around the world that also experience this type of phenomenon. And there's one of these in Alaska. And basically the area is from Juneau to Anchorage to Barrow. And Barrow's like all the way at the top of the state. So it's a really large area. And, you know, most people don't realize how large Alaska is. It's basically like 3 times the size of Texas. And so, you know, I got called up there because I have done, you know, some work, and they found one of my videos on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel regarding portal activity and a number of, you know, paranormal investigations and interactions and things like that we've had at locations that have shown to have portal activity. So yeah, I went up there. I'd been stationed in Alaska for 3 years back in the 90s when I was in the U.S. Air Force. So I was familiar with the area and some of the stories, and you know, really kind of the interview when I had with them when they started asking me some of the questions. I had no idea at first, other than it has something to do with portals. Okay, you know, they started asking me some questions about Alaska, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, Alaska Triangle. I used to live up there, so boom, I was their guy. But it's really interesting, some of the things that have happened there. Like the very first episode, we were talking about a missing Douglas airplane that went missing in 1950. Have no idea where it disappeared to. We're talking like 44 people that disappeared in this airplane. It was not bad weather. It was you know, mostly sunny skies, and you know, just all of a sudden they ended up losing radio contact, never heard from them again, lost somewhere as they were crossing the Canadian border near Snag in Yukon territory. And you know, they had like 7,000 people out there looking for this airplane, covered like 350,000 square miles. No idea where it went to. I mentioned it earlier that as they were conducting this search, they did pick up a little radio chatter that was very hard for them to discern exactly what it said. But this is kind of one of the, you know, the theorized ideas of, you know, perhaps if, like down in the Bermuda Triangle, the plane got caught up in a vortex, like has happened down there, perhaps that radio chatter was coming back through the, you know, through that vortex, from the other dimension. And they've brought on, they had Bruce Gurning, who's one from the Bermuda Triangle that had this experience, onto that episode. And there's one coming up here where he's going to be featured a little bit more, kind of one in which I get a bit of a bigger feature as well, talking about the electromagnetic activity up there. But with his experience, he was, I forget the island that's there, in the Bermuda Triangle, but he did this flight all the time from that island to Miami. It would always take him about 120 minutes all the time. Well, this one day he's flying back toward Miami, and he gets caught up in all this like cloud cover, and he describes it as it's pressing in on him, it's encircling him. He's seeing these like strange flashing lights, and then there's like this tunnel that forms in front of him, and his controls are going all crazy. The gauges are all out of whack. Everything's just going nuts in the airplane, and he's basically being sucked into this tunnel. And finally, he actually safely comes out on the other side, and Miami is like right below him. And he's looking at the time, and he's like, I shouldn't be here yet. I shouldn't be at Miami yet. It's like, I still have another half an hour to go. So a flight that usually took him 120 minutes took him only 90. And he attributes it to this vortex that he got sucked into. So this is the type of stuff that is believed also happens up there in Alaska.
Now, with Bruce Gernon, when he made that flight that quickly, is it verified that, like, he took off at, let's say, 1 o'clock, and instead of arriving in Miami at 3 o'clock, he actually did make it in an unusually quick amount of time?
Yeah, he's got like the documentation with the logs and like the the fuel slips and all that stuff. He's got here's the fuel that I consumed for that day. Here's what it is. My typical ones. And he's got like all this documentation of what his usual flight was, and then the strange anomalies that happened to him that day. So yeah, he has all of that.
That's one thing I always wondered about that. That just seems, I mean, that's almost seems like irrefutable proof that something happened.
Well, yeah, you would think that, but you're always going to have the skeptics. I was like, nah, it didn't happen, and I mean, it's hard for people to imagine and to believe, but but when you have like in the Bermuda Triangle where you have the planes go missing, and then you send up more planes to go out there, and then they go missing. What in the world's going on here? But that same thing happens, up there in Alaska, and probably the most famous case, which they're not going to be showing on the show, unfortunately, because whatever, they didn't really give me a straight reason for it, but they mentioned it real briefly on the Missing Douglas case, and that's the Boggs and Begich flight that went missing. So Hale Boggs was the Speaker of the House. Begich was a congressman up there in Alaska, and it's campaign time, and the plane went completely missing, and that was at that time the biggest effort to in U.S. history up to that point. Of a search and rescue effort to go and try to find them, and they were bringing in like the brand new spy planes to try to find these guys, and they found nothing. So where did they go?
It's a good question, and it's a tough question to answer because you're right. I mean, that was a search that was more extensive than you would maybe expect, simply because of the people involved.
Absolutely.
That wasn't just some search and rescue teams and some helicopters and some planes. That wasn't even part of the military involved in that for a short period of time.
Oh yeah, in both the cases that we've talked about, the military was involved in both. You had thousands of people out there. How many thousands of hours that they spent out there? The number of square miles that they examined and combed through. Yeah, it was extremely extensive, and they came away with absolutely nothing. I mean, there's just not even a trace of any wreckage, or there's not like here's a wing or whatever. No, there's nothing at all.
So, how many people or how many planes? And I know it's not all planes. It's people, and I believe there's even some cases of people going out on snowmobiles or sleds and disappearing. But how many people approximately have disappeared in the Alaskan Triangle?
Well, they estimate that it's about 500 to 2,000 people per year, which is just comparing to the rest of the country, it's astronomically higher. 16,000 people since 1988. That's a lot of people.
That's a medium-sized town, or a medium-sized small town.
Yeah, it's a pretty large number, and they disappear in a lot of different ways. Yeah, whether it's snowmobiling or hiking or plane or boat. It's one of the episodes I'm going to be featured on here coming up is ships that people go missing, or strange things happen with the with the controls and the gauges and the and the mechanics, and just crazy things happen up there. I mean, when I was stationed up there, this happened in 1993. I was stationed up there from 1992 to 1995, and a cargo plane was taking off out of the civilian airport there, and as it's taking off over the city, all of a sudden the engine just falls right off the plane, and it just boom, engine falls off the plane. It landed in a supermarket parking lot. Fortunately, it was on the back end of it. Nobody got hurt. And it's really crazy to think about, because a lot of shrapnel cascaded down into the apartment complexes and whatnot around that shopping center. Nobody was actually hurt. People were reporting that, pieces were coming through the roofs, and they were finding it in their, lodged in their bedroom floors and stuff like this. Nobody got hurt. But, the plane ended up turning around immediately. And, just crazy stuff like that happens up there.
With that many people having disappeared, it's easy to write it off and say, well, it's a big area and there are, there are a lot of people going out there and accidents happen. But if that's the case, you would expect eventually for somebody or some wreckage to be found. And how many of these cases have resulted in eventually, whether it be a body or a wreckage, something to prove that there was just a mundane a mundane incident that occurred?
Yeah, I mean, you do find there are several of these where you do actually find the wreckage. They're not all just straight disappearances. Although if you think about it, you mentioned, Alaska is a big place, and it is. It's huge. So it could be kind of easy for people to go missing. But I also have to think about, that number of people. Alaska is not a very heavily populated state to begin with. So if you go by percentages of the population that's up there, this is a really large number. But yeah, a number of the wrecks have actually been found, but some of them are just still extremely crazy. There have been like broken arrows, which are missing nuclear warheads. One of the more famous cases is they're taken off from Eielson Air Force Base in Fairbanks, and as they're coming over the ocean, all of a sudden they start having all kinds of mechanical problems going on with the airplane. They're having to shut down engines, and just everything's going haywire. So the crew has to bail out. They jettison the bomb. So the bomb goes into the ocean. They never found the bomb again, by the way. So there's a nuclear warhead somewhere out there.
Great.
Which they call it a broken arrow. And so the crew parachutes away. Of the 17 crew, they only found 12. 5 guys completely missing. They have no idea what happened to them. The plane itself did crash. They didn't find it for several years later. The pilot had set an autopilot course for the plane to go out into the ocean, out into the Pacific. It didn't go that way. It actually went the opposite direction and veered off course and crashed into a mountain in British Columbia. They found the wreckage years later. And again, they only found 12 of the 17 crew.
Wow, that's a little frightening.
Yeah.
Now,
crazy stuff like that happens there.
Have the numbers or the number of lost aircraft declined, over time? Back, 30, 40 years ago, not every plane was equipped with locating devices, where now pretty much every plane has something on there where it can be located. Has that affected the number of plane disappearances at all?
It's hard to tell. I mean, there are still disappearances that happen, but excuse me, it's really hard to tell because there are so many more flights in and out of there now. Back in the day, sure, people went up to Alaska and they flew within the state and what have you. But the traffic wasn't as heavy as it is now. So you have a lot more flights going in and out of there all the time. So the percentages of missing planes and crashes and things like that are lower. But it's hard to know if the phenomena is happening just as often. And it just looks like it's not because of the fact that there's so much more air traffic going on now.
And I would think with the increase in air traffic, you would expect just by happenstance or luck, somebody flying over and discovering or noticing more of these wrecks. But yet so many of them just seem to be completely gone.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. How have, over these years, how have we not found some of these things with just somebody kind of looking out a window and, hey, I noticed something down there. That's actually a very good point. There would be a lot more opportunities, for something like that to happen, and it just hasn't happened. And what's interesting is that missing Douglas that I mentioned, that we covered in the first episode, it was just like a couple months after that happened that there was another plane. It was a smaller plane that crashed near Snag where, they believed the Douglas went missing. They found those guys immediately, and, the guys that crashed that plane, they had some cuts and bruises, but basically walked away unscathed. But they found that plane immediately. So,
weird.
Yeah.
That is definitely strange. Have they ever made any correlations between like UFO sightings or reports and disappearing planes, or is that still a little bit too far out there at this point regarding the Alaskan Triangle?
No, it's a possibility that some do believe that there was some UFO involvement. So there were 3 UFO sightings right around that time. There was one, if I get this order right, I think it was one near Kodiak just before, and then I think it was 2 around Elmendorf just after. So, but they basically kind of sandwiched the thing with the Douglas. So yeah, there were some UFO sightings around that, and there are some people that believe that a UFO actually came by and made off with the Douglas.
I can kind of understand why people would think that, especially with a case like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like there were a couple of the guys there from MUFON that were on that episode, like Jeremy Ray, and then I forget her name, but the girl that heads up MUFON up there in, I think in Fairbanks. But that was kind of their assertions. They believe it was extraterrestrial involvement.
So where can people find this series, and when is it on?
Yeah, so people can find the series on Travel Channel. It airs Sunday nights starting at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. They changed up the format a little bit. It was originally supposed to be 10 one-hour episodes, and they made it 5 two-hour episodes. But you can also find it streaming on places like Sling and Hulu, or if you want to go on to like Amazon or Vudu and pick it up there, you can watch it there as well. So a lot of different places you can catch it.
Mike, I hate to do this, but we are actually almost out of time. Can you take a couple of minutes and just let everybody know where they can find your work, what you're going to be up to, and maybe some of the things you're going to be doing this spring?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely go ahead and get the book, A Walk in the Shadows. You can find that at my website, MikeRicksecker.com, HauntedRoadMedia.com. But, of course, you can go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all that stuff and pick it up. It's called A Walk in the Shadows, A Complete Guide to Shadow People. Of course, also go to the Haunted Road Media channel and subscribe to that. I've got all kinds of Shadow People videos out there, but we have almost 800 videos out there now. Anyways, all kinds of supernatural, paranormal, ghost stories. Get the the live stream shows, all that stuff out there. Throughout the summer, I'm going to be speaking at a lot of different places, conferences. So you can check my schedule. I have it posted in my newsletter right now, so I need to get it up on the website. But Phenomenology in Pennsylvania, Parapsychon in Ohio. I've got the Ocean State Paracon in Massachusetts this year, Michigan Paracon, Silicon, Arkansas, Fright Fest. So I'm going to be doing a lot of different things this year.
Will you be coming to Chicago Ghost Con?
Yeah, I guess Ursula was going to make an announcement about that on Friday, and I'd asked her about it a couple weeks ago, and she was still trying to nail down some details. So as long as everything works out with that, because I do have stuff scheduled in October, so I hope the date works out right, and so we shall see.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming down to Alton and exploring the Mineral Springs Hotel with you. I think that's going to be a fantastic Paracon.
Yes, we have our own Paracon. What am I thinking? We have our own Paracon June 12th to 13th in Alton, Illinois, yes.
I was wondering if you were going to maybe mention that.
Well, thank you, Everett. I appreciate that. Yes, Haunted Road Media Paracon, August 12th to 13th. And what's great about this, we keep it really low cost. So the whole weekend package, so we're talking Friday night paranormal panel and flashlight tour, and then all day Saturday. So you get the speakers, the vendors, the exhibits. We have a lot of historic exhibits that are going to be there. And then the Saturday night paranormal investigation, the whole thing, $50.
Oh, that's a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
I'm driving down there. I don't care if it is an 8 or 9 hour drive. I'm coming on down. Mike, awesome. I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it, and it has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Everett. It was definitely a great time. Okay.
We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajons.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Rezik, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your temporary host, Everett Thiemer. Dave's off in San Francisco speaking at UFO Con 2020. If you're anywhere in the area, go check him out. Don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the SOR Vault, where you can pick up a Team Stump t-shirt, and so much more. Now, normally this time of night, Dave does his thought of the Dave and the news, and he does them alone, but I don't have those kinds of skills. So I brought in a friend of mine. Richard Black, the lead singer of Shark Island, has been kind enough to offer to come on in, sit in, and have a little bit of a discussion with me on some of these topics. Richard, thank you so much for hopping in here at the last minute.
Oh, not at all. Well, Brett, thank you. This was going to be fun. We had a good talk last time, so we don't have 3 hours again.
That was fantastic, and it's funny that when you came on in December, we were talking about people giving up their privacy and willingly give up their privacy and kind of being susceptible or being monitored or watched through their texts and all that stuff. And a lot of people tend to think that that's a little bit out there. But the number of people that are starting to understand it is growing. And Richard, before we even get to any news, which we may not even, because something happened last night, and I want to tell you about it because I think you'll understand it and it'll illustrate the point maybe to the listeners. After the show last night, I was having a text by messenger discussion with some people. And one of the things we were talking about were guitars. And one of the things that I had said is that I would love to find a vintage K Dobro. Now, anybody who's out there probably has no idea at this point what the K brand is. They probably don't really remember it. But after this texting conversation ended, I put my phone down and about a half hour later I picked it up and I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed and I'm getting these ads. And they're not just like, a Guitar Center ad for cables or their next sale going on. I was getting ads that were mentioning specifically vintage K guitars.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'm not surprised at all.
I mean, and go ahead.
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, our everything we were just talking about this. Every conversation we have, every place we go, whatever we buy, whatever text we get, whatever text we put out is kept as a permanent record. People don't understand that. And information can be extracted out of that. It's all metadata, and any portion unto itself seems kind of meaningless so that nobody objects to it. Nobody really, because they go, oh, who cares if I have a picture of my kid on my phone, or if they know that I went to Starbucks. But, when you put all the pieces together, there is a story there, and it can be, and it's for sale. So essentially you and your future is for sale. So that was an easy one. You're talking about specific things, guitar, and you're talking about a specific, capo, what you're talking about, and it was easy just to extract that, and you became a target just from what you said. I mean, that was like in its simplicity. That was very simple. You can imagine how insidious something like this can get if there's some kind of a dissension or a crime and you happen to be somehow implicated in it, but not directly, just kind of by happenstance, and all of a sudden, the sky's the limit what can happen to you. I mean, everything from somebody coming knocking on your door, or something like that happened to you where you get hit up to go spend some money on something that you're talking about wanting. So I'm not surprised at all. It probably happens to people all the time, and they don't really realize it sometimes.
You know what surprised me about it, though, was the speed and the target-like accuracy. When we get ads on our feeds, of course, I guess we all kind of accept that, sure, they're looking at where we've gone on the internet or what we've done, and we kind of get these ads that are sort of targeted. That if I went to a Home Depot or Lowe's website and I looked at washing machines, I've come to expect the idea that I'm going to see some appliance ads on my feed. Frighteningly, we've accepted that as just the way it is. We don't seem to see much of a problem with it anymore. What surprised?
No, we don't.
What
We
surprised?
should be furious.
We should be.
We should be furious.
What surprised me with this is that I had not done any searching for K guitars. And anybody, like I said, anybody that knows, it probably knows that the K guitar, I'm not even sure if they're being made anymore. It is not a brand that you're typically going to find or see in a used music equipment store or even a new store. It's just not something that's out there. So the only thing.
So for clarity, did they hit you up on that particular brand or just guitars in general?
That particular brand.
How about that? Wow.
What I put into the text message or the Facebook Messenger message was, I would love to get a vintage K Dobro. Within a half hour, I got done with that message with those people, set my phone down, didn't think about it for any length or, for a half hour. I pick up my phone and I'm scrolling through the timeline, and it's not vague guitar ads or ads to go to this music store or that music store. They all started out,
which would have been creepy enough.
It would have been, but they all started with vintage K. Like I saw more vintage K guitars last night than I have seen in the past 10 years. I think there were 5 different ads for, or 5 different pictures for ads for vintage K guitars, which, that's the part that shocked me. It's not a vague ad. Yeah. It's not I messaged somebody or I went to one of the big box guitar retailers and now they're saying, oh, he went here, let's try throwing something at him and see if he's interested in that. It was literally It was literally the terms that I put in this message on Messenger.
Right. Well, I'm sure just for everybody, that might be maybe listening to this and kind of rolling their eyes, maybe. It doesn't mean that there's somebody sitting with a green visor and listening to all our phone calls and doing that. This is all done just, by algorithms, by AI, really. And it doesn't need anybody even at the wheel. It just goes on its own. This kind of stuff just rolls on its own. There's no way there's a big group of people that are actually controlling. This is just something. These are parameters that are set, and then from the parameters is collected into the algorithm, and then it's just, then you don't even know. I'm not sure the creators know exactly all the ramifications of it, but because it just runs on its own. So you never know what could be. I mean, heaven forbid some combination of words that you say gets misinterpreted, and all of a sudden, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, privacy is, when you think the basis of freedom is privacy, and the bottom line is that's being taken away from us, and our future is being taken away from us by this technology.
But it does show that almost all, well, I guess almost isn't the word, but that everything is being monitored isn't even the right word, but they know what's going on. This is just an innocuous little text message back and forth, and here it is. Even if it is just an algorithm, which I agree, and that makes total sense. I've talked to Dave Scott, the typical or the normal weekday host, and we've had some really interesting discussions about some of the things that have happened to us during phone conversations where we get into some very deep kind of discussions, and that's when we have the communication problem. and that's all by algorithm. We're not crazy enough to think that there's we're not crazy enough to sit there and think, oh, we're valuable enough or important enough that somebody's actually taking the time to listen to us. It's all done by computers. And that's so easy to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you don't even, and that was a text that you were actually inputting and you were getting out. Imagine what is being collected when your phone is just in your room. I have a few friends of mine that won't even have conversations in the presence of any phone. When I come over, have a visit, talk, we'll put our phones and we'll put them, 20 yards away somewhere out of the reach of anything, because, phones, all the phones today, if it's a smartphone, everything can be accessed, and it's probably communicating with the tower thousands of times a minute. It's just saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and whatever's going on and whatever words are being uttered in the room, it's all being permanently recorded, and, now, and it could just be sitting there and the screen off, but they can not only turn on the microphone, they can not only turn on the camera, they can, once your phone has been hacked or activated, they can do anything that you can do on the phone. Look at every single one of your emails, your searches, your friends, everything you purchased, where you went, how long you've been there, and your phone doesn't even need to be on. So think about it. It's only going to get worse.
And
we're going. This is the trajectory. This is it.
And as people begin to figure this out about their phones, and I know several people who they keep, I believe they actually make them now. They're a little sticker that goes over the cameras, and they leave those on there unless they're using the camera. And when they're done with the camera, they put it back on there. But as we figure this out about phones, how convenient is it that now we're introducing all of these home connectivity devices where they don't need the phone anymore?
I know. Can you believe those? I can't even believe it. So people think, oh, look what I got. I got my, Alexa or my Siri. I'm like, gee, what a bummer. Let's go out for dinner. I don't want to stay here.
But it is a little bit funny or a little bit concerning, depending on your sense of humor and your point of view, I guess, that, as soon as it seems like people began to have these issues or concerns over their phones, all these connected devices come out. And I was actually going to invite you on earlier this month or in January, because we had talked quite extensively about the idea of giving up our privacy to some of these connected devices. And you were on in early December, I believe, or early to mid-December. And it was right after the new year when Amazon announced that their most popular products this year were their home connectivity devices, whether it be the Echo Dot or the Alexa. They have so many of them now that it's kind of hard to keep track. But those were the most popular gifts of the year. People are just handing their information to people. I don't know.
They're handing it over. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it changed, but I mean, I grew up in a time where when if a van would a weird colored van would be driving down the street real slow, we'd probably call the cops and say, "What the hell? Who is this? Who are these people?" And now you have the same van with a Google logo on it. Everybody just waves to it. Hey, all right. You're taking a picture of my house. Cool. I mean, they just give it away. They voluntarily give it away. They give away their DNA. They don't even give it away. They pay for someone to take it. Think about it.
Yeah, that's something I'm not going to do.
It's like, got it. My sister called. She I don't know, about a year ago. She was, I went and got that Ancestry.com, whatever the hell it was, one of those DNA collections, and I had it done. And I go, you gotta be kidding! I was so pissed off at her because indirectly, she's kind of exposed my and ruined my privacy because she's related to me. So as far as DNA goes, there's a line between me and her, no matter what. I mean, that's how they found that guy in that Golden State Killer. I mean, I'm glad they called him, but basically, they didn't find him through DNA. They found a relative.
I remember that. We talked quite a bit about that.
Yeah, we did. But it's all tied together. It's all that loss of privacy, and I think mankind's greatest mistake will be its inability to control the technology that it created, right? And that goes right back to AI, and it goes back to these phones that we are just completely attached to. At least I know I am. I know a lot of people are. I mean, I wish I used my phone a lot less than I do, but the world has become such a place that it's just almost tempting, to just have this super distractor in your hand to be able to do anything you pretty much want with it. But it's kind of changed everyone's lives and everyone's priorities and their perspectives. It's only going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. That's all there is to it. So,
well, Richard, I can't believe this because we really didn't even get into any news yet, but we are, and this is why it's always so fun talking to you, because we just start talking and it goes where it goes, and that's
you and I, we're impossible, Brett. We're just impossible.
I know you're going to be joining us throughout the week here to kind of help fill out the last bit of this thing we call Spaced Out Radio, but I want to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find the Shark Island music, because I believe there's a European release coming up, isn't there?
The European release was actually this last Friday on Valentine's Day. We did the European release, and well, thanks for that plug. SharkIslandMusic.com. That's the band's website. You could pretty much kind of pivot anywhere from there. You could find out where you can get our music. You can buy, physical CDs off that site, or you can download on all music platforms on SharkIslandMusic.com. And it's a brand new album. It's called Bloodline. And if you kind of like hard rock, I think you'll like it. It's a really nice piece of work, if I do say so myself. I worked my ass off on it, so... Anyway,
it's a fantastic album. Everybody should get it. Richard, I'm going to get you to hold on for a second here. I got to wrap this up and get out of here, and then then we'll be done for the night.
Yes, sir.
We've got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background. He takes us in and out of every single show. I want to thank everyone listening in their cars, in the chat rooms, at home, wherever you may be. You know what? It's been a fun night. I want to say thank you to Dave Scott, who's at UFOCon 2020, for letting me sit in tonight. He's given me a couple more days, and then he'll probably never talk to me again, because I'm sure I'm going to crash this thing one of these nights. But anyway, I want to say thank you and good night, because together, my friends, we own the night.